So let's talk about pricing, because when it comes to pricing out a job, giving out quotes, giving out estimates, it always gets a little tricky. And there's going to become a point in your career and your journey where you're going to have to make a mindset shift from pricing for what you want as opposed to just trying to win a job. Now, when you're first getting started, your main goal is you're just trying to win a job. You're trying to win the business, right? You're not charging as much as you feel like you deserve, but you're also not trying to charge too little. But you don't want to overcharge because you just want to win the business, right? Now, this usually comes into play when, as myself, I'm a photographer, videographer. When you're just starting, your portfolio is scarce, right? And so you don't have a lot to reference on. You don't have a lot of experience, right? People just know that you do this certain particular skill and they know that you're pretty good at it. But when you're selling it to people who don't know about you, right? And they decide, hey, I want to work with you. All of a sudden, at that point in time, you're trying to price out the job and you know that it's X amount of work and it's going to probably take this amount of hours. And maybe you don't know everything, but you don't want to lose the job. And then there's going to come to a point where you get things rolling and all of a sudden, now you want to start raising your prices. But there's always kind of like that internal fear of like, man, am I charging too much? Like they'll never go for this, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of times what's holding us back really is ourselves. We're just holding ourselves back, right? But what's going to end up happening one day is that you're going to have to take on this mindset shift, right? And essentially, you're going to be pricing out jobs for what you feel that you deserve. Now, when you show up and you arrive at this point in your career, essentially you've gotten to a point where you're more established, right? You have a portfolio, right? So you're not sweating jobs. You're not taking low paying jobs because you just need some work in your portfolio or somebody's promising you exposure. If you do something for them on the strength, right? Give them a discount or maybe do it for free and they'll put it on their platform and you'll get exposure, et cetera, right? Those are games that you're going to play when you're just starting out. Sometimes you got to play the game. Sometimes you can walk away. But it all depends. But once you get to a point where you're established, people know who you are, you have relationships, you're starting to get referral work in, okay, which means that you're not going out and selling every time you need a job. Things are starting to come to you. You're going to have to get to a point where you're pricing for not only your skills, your knowledge, but your experience as well, right? And you know more of what it takes to put together a great project, right? You know that if you don't have enough money, you're not going to be into it, or you're not going to be able to get the proper help that you need. And you know that by charging that higher price point, you're getting what you deserve. The client's going to get a better product in the end. But sometimes it just depends on the client. Sometimes you have clients who are just cheap. They don't want to pay anything, right? And then you have ones who are generous. You give them a high price and they don't bat an eye. They're just like, okay, sounds good. Let's rock and roll. And so as you get to that point, you're going to have to sort out these bad and good clients, but you want to start to get more confidence. You want to start to believe in yourself and you want to know that you do command those prices, especially if you're built up, especially if you're established, right? Especially if you have proof in the pudding, right? You can sit there and say, hey, take a look at my work, take a look at my resume. This is what I do. You're always going to have people who come in and try to lowball you, right? Especially if you have somebody who's a friend or who knows you, or maybe even sometimes people who are referrals, right? And it could have been from a client that you worked with in the past. And in the past, your prices might have been low, right? Because you weren't established. You were still just trying to win business and you did a great job for them and they refer you over, but you don't know, right? Or maybe you kind of grew out of that client's price range and they might refer you somebody who's in that price range and they might be like, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. And so you're forced with a decision. Do you take the job and do you make the money? Or do you just say, hey, no, it's not for me. Thank you. But maybe here's somebody else who can help you. And that's all going to be on a per basis decision. It depends on where you're at, particularly at that point in time. And it depends on if you think a job is worth it or not. But for the most part, you don't want to get stuck with those jobs, right? And we've all been stuck with jobs that we hate, right? The person isn't paying that much money and they're demanding everything under the sun. And those are the type of clients that you got to get away from. As soon as you get to a point where you're established, you have a bit of a reputation, you have good relationships, you want to get away from that type of a client. You're going to run into them along the way. There's no escaping them. They're everywhere, especially when you're new in the game. You're green, you don't know a lot, right? And you're just trying to win business. You're trying to establish something for yourself. You're trying to bring in a couple of dollars because you got to pay your bills and do whatever else that you need to take care of. But once you get to a point that you have all of those things, then you want to shift your mindset and you want to start pricing jobs accordingly. And also, too, you want to work with clients who are going to pay you what you want and see what you're offering or see the value in what you're offering. So, that's one of those tricky things, but it's something that you should always keep in mind, right? And one of the tricks that I like to use or I have used is that every time you do a job, the next one you charge just a little bit more. If you charge $100 one time, next time you charge $120. After that, you charge $150. And you just keep moving up incrementally, right? And this way, it's not like you're going from $100 to $1,000, right? You're doing something, you're pressing yourself, you're pushing a little bit more, you're taking yourself out of your comfort zone just a little bit. And sometimes people are going to say no, sometimes they're going to say yeah. But when they say yeah, you're like, okay, that's what's up, right? And then it lets you know, hey, I can command this price tag. And you're not going to command it from everybody because you're going to have, like I say, you're going to have clients who just don't want to pay. They don't see the value. And if that's the case, you probably don't want to deal with them anyway, because it doesn't matter what you do. They're not going to be happy about it. There's always going to be something that they're going to nitpick about. So go where you're treated best and try to find those good clients to work with. And even when you have clients who are kind of on the fence, right? You have some who they want to get the best deal, but they want to get the most value as possible. Work with those clients, right? Work with them, try to meet them in the middle and get to a point where you're still, getting an amount that you feel is fair, but you're also able to provide them a lot of service and a great experience within that, okay? And if you're in a situation like that, I always say never let a deal die on your side of the table. So if they come back with a counter offer that's too low and you've hit your bottom line price, just hit them with the bottom line price again. And if they say no, then that's fine. But if it's something that you feel like you can do and, they don't come at least to your bottom line price, just hit them with it again. Instead of just saying no, thank you, just hit them with it again and see what happens from there. But that's it for today. Listen, I'm going to be leaving a link down in the description. So if you want to ask me a question, send it in. You'll hit my contact page on my website. I'll answer it on YouTube and we'll take it from there. So for all my people out there who are trying to build a life on their terms so they can get it how they live, it's your man, Jonathan Moore, and I'm signing out. Peace.